The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry I can't be with you tonight. However, I couldn't completely miss the chance to take a moment to share some thoughts with all of you. The lesson I cherish the most is how important it is to love what you do. If you love what you do and it's making you happy, all the hard work and perseverance will pay off. You can't stop people from trying to limit your dreams, but you can stop it from becoming a reality. Your dreams are up to you. Please know I'm thinking of you, supporting you, and encouraging you always. Peace.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Start off with a little Kobe Bryant, the Mamba. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe. So on the 26th, which was Sunday, marked the 5-year anniversary of his passing. God, that one's still so surreal to me. I mean, coming off the heels of Jackson's 2-year anniversary, man, that one's another one that just never will feel normal. And it really is such a shame. It really is such a shame. I can honestly say, when I think about Kobe, I still God, it just makes me so sad. I think on Saturday night, I was kind of like flipping through some things on YouTube, and I came across Michael Jordan's speech that he gave at Kobe's memorial at the Staples Center. At the time, it was called the Staples Center. Now it's Crypto Arena. And I watched that thing, and man, talk about waterworks starting. But man, it was such a heartfelt, just such a heartfelt speech by Jordan. And I think everybody was amazed that they had such a close relationship. I think for a long time, nobody really knew that. And that's what makes it even more awesome, is because they didn't need everybody to know that they had that close of a relationship. And that to me is just amazing. Like, that relationship was between the two of them. So they didn't necessarily need to publicize that. But getting back to the day of his passing 5 years ago, man, I remember that clear as yesterday. I remember exactly what I was doing, exactly where I was, exactly how I heard about it. Actually, my friend Jeremy Steffen sent me a text, and he's like, "Did you hear about Kobe?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Turn on your TV." Or I think he even said he died. And I was just so shocked. I mean, just shocked. And I will say, I was in Marina Del Rey, California at that time. And that morning of his passing, it was a Sunday morning, I believe. Let me see if it was a Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, it was a Sunday morning, January 26, 2020. And I absolutely remember looking out the window that morning and being like, man, it's cloudy and like super crazy overcast. Honestly, like I genuinely remember kind of thinking that to myself. Now, obviously, it wasn't anything. And this was probably at 8 a.m, something along those lines. So anyway, when I then got that news from him, oh man, that just sucks. That really does. And obviously not just for the fact that we lost Kobe, but his daughter, and then all the other people that were on that helicopter that day. Obviously they get kind of lost in all this because Kobe's the one that was, so famous. But man, it really sucks. That really, really sucks. All right, let's get into a few things. I wanted to, before I start playing some clips, I want to share kind of a couple things. And so, I don't know, if anybody follows me on Instagram or Facebook, you probably saw this, but, I had gotten so many questions through DM from, a variety of people that I've known through different aspects of my life. And so, I think it was on Friday, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna put down on paper kind of my thoughts on a few different things, because honestly, I'd gotten And when I say a lot, I mean, I'm not kidding, probably like 50 or so questions and DMs about like, well, what'd you think of this? And what'd you think of this? And you don't ever talk about this. And I don't know who you voted for and this and that. And like, I'm confused. And it's funny. I mean, it's funny that some people are genuinely confused kind of where I net out on things. And quite frankly, I'm not trying to do that on purpose, but I actually attribute that to honestly, maybe somebody that's not necessarily judging every take for what they are and maybe critically thinking for themselves and instead sort of defaulting to the opinion that their side has on things. So let me read this because I actually think this is interesting, and I had some really interesting comments from it that again, I think this just hopefully kind of gets us into again that mind space and mindset that I'd really like to encourage us to have moving forward, and that is we don't have to always agree or disagree with whoever, and this doesn't even have to just apply to politics. This can apply to everything. But let me read this for you. So I said, many of you asked, so here are quick thoughts. Number one, on Elon, it was 100% a sign, still figuring out to who. If you think it was nothing, do the exact same thing and strike the exact same pose and post it here and on your LinkedIn and say, my heart goes out to you. I dare you. So that was a little test. Obviously, nobody's going to do it. And again, I mean, whatever that was that Elon did, it just wasn't normal, So it just wasn't normal. So you can't just dismiss it as, oh, it was nothing. You guys are making too big of a deal about it. Okay. Number two, on the Bishop lady, judging her take, she was empathetic and kind and humane. Nothing she said or did was aggressive. Again, it just shows how everybody is, quote, all or nothing partisan politics, end quote. Number three, on Trump, I did vote for him, and those that listen to DSD know that, but I don't have Trump worship syndrome, and I will be super critical, as I think I have been. Judge the take. Number four, on Pete Hegseth, awful, literally awful, the worst pick in history, and very concerning. He is not the guy. He's just not terrible and a bad person. And then I ended it with my ask, stop playing partisan politics. They're so 2020. I love that line. Actually, that's a Ray D original. Stop playing partisan politics. They're so 2020. And they really are. So anyway, that was kind of what I shared. And, it definitely got a reaction from people. I will say I had a lot of people on let's say they were on the right pro-Trump side, and I had a few close friends that I absolutely love and appreciated. They're saying, hey, I'm surprised and disagree with what you said about the Bishop lady, and then also disagree with the Pete Hegseth. And again, that's totally cool. And I will say this, the few folks, well, several that sort of questioned that, we had a really nice back and forth. And I said, well, this is why I disagree with the Bishop lady having malintentions. Because, by the way, I actually listened to the entire thing that Bishop lady said. I didn't just listen to the 45-second clip that became all the news. And then on the Pete Hegseth, I said, well, what do you know about him? And they said, well, nothing. That's Trump's nomination. And I said, okay, well, that doesn't mean we have to agree with everything. I will tell you with my one buddy, I shared with him, I said, well, here's why I don't really think this is the guy. And after I kind of went through the whole laundry list of things that, quite frankly, I think are not appropriate in terms of Pete Hegseth being the Secretary of Defense, which, by the way, he was confirmed for it. So, oh man, I hope he doesn't come after me for saying bad stuff about him. But after I shared with him all that, he's like, oh, dude, I did not know any of that. Okay, I mean, I can't say I agree with you, but I can understand your position. That was amazing. I loved that interaction. Now, I will say my liberal Democrat friends and this definitely was probably it was probably 2 to 3 times more. They were not as what's the word? I don't want to use the word kind, but man, I had a couple people that I've known for a long time. And so they keyed in on number 3, which was obviously me saying I voted for Trump. And man, they came at me aggressive, really aggressive. One gal in particular, I was kind of blown away, but I will say I'm super proud of myself. When I read it, I was like, okay, you know what? Don't react, take this in. And I did. I waited a few hours and then I replied back to her and I said, "Hey, I appreciate your perspective, but I did not like the direction the country was taking, and therefore I opted to vote to take a different direction. And then secondly, I could not support Kamala Harris because she oversaw a genocide. And for me, that was really one of the main, well, not one of the main, but definitely one of the deciding factors. I mean, I honestly feel that, what I've witnessed myself personally in terms of what's taken place in the Gaza situation and how the Biden-Harris administration basically enabled that. And they tried to play good cop, bad cop. They tried all this stuff, but it was all BS. It was all talking the talk. And fundamentally, like they did not do anything to stop a genocide. And so that was a hard stop for me. Now, with that being said, is Trump going to be any better? I'll play something for you in a minute that, maybe he won't, but that's kind of, to be determined. And it's to be determined, I guess, how Trump handles all of this. But I knew how Biden and Harris handled it, and I didn't like that. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I think there's like interesting learnings. And like I said, I mean, as far as the conversations, I will say they were a lot more civil with my friends on the right, my friends on the left. I mean, man, there were some serious attacks. Now, I absolutely did not engage in any of them. I really just kind of tried to explain myself, and I will say for the most part, everybody, after a little back and forth, some was like 2 or 3 messages, some ended up being 15, 20 messages, some ended up being voice notes, all of that. And I enjoyed it. I will say after the end, 90% of those conversations ended in, agreeing to disagree and shaking hands. There definitely was 1 or 2 that I think probably ended in the ending of a friendship. But hey, that is what it is, man. That is what it is. If somebody is not willing to kind of, look at and respect my side of things, I mean, that is what it is. Maybe it's a natural end to that friendship, and I appreciate the role they've played in my life, and hopefully vice versa. And that's it. Shake hands or don't shake hands and just move on.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades.
All right, so Trump has been signing a ton of these executive orders. And again, if you don't know what an executive order is, it's basically a way for the president to just make something happen without it having to, go through Congress and get approved. And so this executive order was to declassify or unclassify the documents relating to JFK assassination, Robert F. Kennedy assassination, and Martin Luther King assassination. Now, a ton of people online were like, yes, this is amazing. Oh, finally, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, like when I thought about it, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, there's no way the actual truth is still there, or they're going to let it come out. Like, if you're anybody that has been skeptical at all about the role of the government, especially over the past 4 or 5 years, with COVID, to the vaccines, to the election, to whatever, I just find it very hard to believe that the actual truth of what took place on those 3 occasions has been left in files that have been classified. I mean, they would destroy the real truth probably 50 years ago for that matter, let alone are they going to let it come out. So I really don't see anything coming out that is, quite frankly, I mean, let's see what comes out and then we'll analyze it. I don't even want to like make predictions, but again, this isn't anything that I think is going to be the truth being revealed. I think there's going to be something being revealed, and the question will be if people are placated enough to accept it and think that that's what happened. I don't think so, man. I think the internet, and especially this Gen Z generation, and even more, people are like fleshing out what they think is the truth, and they're not putting up with nonsense. So let's see what they try to, I guess, pass off as the truth, and let's see if that's accepted. Maybe it will be, and if it will be, fantastic. So we'll delve into that more. Oh, and, obviously, I think this applies to the Epstein list. Like, honestly, if that Epstein list, which they've committed to releasing, I mean, not only has Trump committed to it, but Elon has committed to it as part of like the Doge initiative. And then Kash Patel, who's up for the director of the FBI, is committed. So, like, if they release an Epstein list and it doesn't have like big names on it, and if it doesn't have shocking, major names on it, I don't think people are going to buy it. I really don't. I think people are kind of done with that nonsense, and they see through it. So anyway, all right, we'll see on all that. All right, next up, along the lines of normal everyday people seeing through everything, take a listen to this from just, again, random dude on TikTok. And by the way, TikTok has changed. It's totally changed. They absolutely did something to the algorithm during those 12 hours that it, quote unquote, got taken down.
I noticed we're not seeing Palestine. We're not seeing the California wildfires. No more drones. No more Cat Williams. No more Terrence Howard. They're not talking about Luigi. They're not talking about the guy that they found on the East Coast with 150 pipe bombs. They're not talking about none of this stuff, bro. Dang. They finessed us.
I love that. He says they finessed us. And again, I'll play the rest in a minute, but he's totally right. So like when I went back on TikTok, the algorithm, and especially an area called the For You page, they call it the FYP, it's totally changed. And all of the controversial content that I was getting is no longer being fed to me. Now you can search for it, but even when I searched for it, it seemed like the search results were dramatically muted.
They finessed us. This app is definitely different. That's crazy. Who else noticed this, bro? I knew it was something different about TikTok, bro. Bro, I want y'all to go in y'all search bar, search the California wildfire. I just posted about the California wildfires. But as soon as that uploaded, I started thinking, I ain't seen no alien content, no conspiracy content dealing with the devil. They ain't talking about that spaceship that they found in space that was coming. Remember that? Bro, how is this okay? See, I'm about to go back to Red Note, bro.
That is hilarious. He's like, I'm about to go back to Red Note, bro. And Red Note was the other TikTok version in Mandarin Chinese that, like, gosh, 1 million plus people flocked to. And I'll talk about something interesting that took place on Red Note. I don't think I brought this up the last time, but anyway, I did want to say I love guys like that. Like, that is just an average everyday dude going on TikTok and saying, hey, I noticed a complete difference. And that's what I'm saying. I really love that people are awake and they're aware and they're pointing it out. And again, the question becomes, this is going to be a battle between, the finessing subtleties of big tech and big whomever versus the everyday person, and let's see who comes out on top. I don't know, man. People are smart now. They really are. I will say this about TikTok as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets acquired by Meta or by Oracle or a combination of Meta and Oracle. There's definitely shenanigans going on behind the scenes. I think that 12-hour quote unquote ban enabled them to either change server locations or, again, change the algorithm. All right, the other huge thing that took place on Monday was that the Chinese released their ChatGPT competitor, and it's called DeepSeek, and it completely upended U.S. technology companies and totally caused a huge drop in the stock market and the crypto market, and especially in stocks like Nvidia, which I think saw like maybe a 17% decline on Monday. Let me play you a couple things.
Let me tell you about DeepSeek, the new Chinese AI company that is sending shockwaves through the industry, causing more than $1 trillion in losses to the values of US tech companies today alone. The Wall Street Journal says that DeepSeek has Silicon Valley marveling at how its programmers nearly matched American rivals despite using inferior chips. Here's why the US AI industry is currently freaking out. DeepSeek was built in under 2 months for less than $10 million, and it's now #1 on the App Store. And not only that, it was built with outdated chips and a small team of fewer than 200 people.
So basically, DeepSeek, think about it as literally like a ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, and then Anthropic by Claude competitor came out from China, and it, again, for what we know right now, it's built with inferior chips, it's built with much less money, it's built with a much smaller staff, and then supposedly it works just as good as I don't know if it's the top version of ChatGPT, but it works basically just as good as ChatGPT.
Think about that, $10 million. That's it. The US just this week alone announced that they were doing this private partnership with $500 billion of investments in AI. Remember, that was the whole scuffle between Sam Altman and Elon Musk.
Now, what he is mentioning is that Stargate that I talked about last week, which was, the big Trump announcement with $500 billion, and that involved Larry Ellison. But that also, remember, they also spun that as mRNA plus AI. So again, that's why I was so skeptical about that. And it was just such a weird announcement in terms of combining mRNA plus AI in order to deliver unique, one-of-a-kind, customized vaccines for cancer issues that you would have as an individual. I will tell you the one thing about that did not make sense when it was announced and continues not to make sense to me is, any business, the key is scalability, and it is how much can you scale and how fast can you scale. And normally when you scale, you have to offer basically the same experience to just more and more consumers. So think about Uber. Uber's an amazing example. Uber started out obviously taking the place of taxis, and then basically once they perfected the software, the app, the model in San Francisco, they could apply the same thing in Los Angeles, apply the same thing in New York, the same thing in Chicago, and then every city in the United States, and then every city in every other country. Fundamentally, it's scalable. This mRNA plus AI customized one-on-one vaccines, it's just not scalable because, again, everything is tailor-made to one person. It kind of reminds me of like custom Nike sneakers. You know how you can I think you can still go on a Nike's website and you can make your own custom version of Nike's, and it's going to cost you like $300 or you're going to pay a premium for doing it. But again, and it's cool, but that's not scalable. You know what I mean? That's not a scalable one size fits all that can get rolled out across cities, across states, across countries. Because again, it's one pair of Nikes that you design on your own. Your brother might want to design his, and it's going to have a slightly different shade of teal. So there's no scalability in that. You know, another thing, a lot of companies tried the custom vitamin solutions where they said, oh, we'll do a blood test and then we'll create a pack of vitamins that's specific to you. Again, they've all not been able to scale. And so when that big announcement last week came out in terms of the mRNA plus AI to deliver custom cancer vaccines tailored to the person, I was like, that just doesn't make sense, man. They're spending billions, if not trillions on this, and then it's not a scalable product. It's just not. It's a individual one-off, one-on-one product. And so I think that's a very difficult business model. And so it made me question the business. And it almost was like, okay, this is probably somewhat of a false flag announcement in order to bring something else forward. So anyway, developing story on that. Let's listen to what the rest of this guy says.
And the more I think about it, I can't help but feel like that announcement last week from Donald Trump was all a stunt to try to get over the fact that China is completely cleaning our clocks in AI. Rather than trying to build off existing models, DeepSeek created their own, and they did it in a much more efficient way. Their model uses less energy, less money, requires fewer resources, and despite all that, their models match or beat GPT-4 in most cases.
All right, so I did not try this yet. I went to download the app and then also try it on their web browser, but then right up top, it's like they had been hit with like a massive malware attack, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to give my email to this right now. Let me kind of wait and see what happens. So anyway, that was a huge announcement on Monday and kind of sent shockwaves into obviously the financial markets as well as just overall, disrupting of what is going on with the AI. Here's another guy. Let me play this. I thought he had some interesting points.
There's a Chinese open source AI model that's come for OpenAI's net. It's DeepSeek's R1, and it's causing panic in Silicon Valley. I mean, it's free to use, and some benchmarks have it beating OpenAI's flagship model O1, which requires a $200 a month subscription. Oh, and their API pricing is 96% cheaper. To understand how insane this is, imagine somebody comes out with a device just as good as the iPhone, but sells it for $50. Now, that's not perfectly analogous, but it represents just how big of an existential terror this is to the closed source commercial models from OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. Now, to make this crazier, DeepSeek was a side project born out of a quant firm, and R1 reportedly required $5 million to create. Now, that's under dispute because they might have a black market NVIDIA pipeline they don't disclose. But I mean, that's less than the total comp package of a single exec in big tech AI. It's looking like open source is the clear winner. The closed models are going to have to rely on brand, incredible consumer experiences, or some sort of regulatory or political favoring. I mean, by the way, DeepSeek does have government-imposed censorship. I mean, try asking it about Tiananmen Square or Xi Jinping. But therein lies the magic of open source. I mean, R1, Llama, you can fine-tune these yourself and build on top of them. And there's an incredibly vibrant community of developers doing just that, which is why I think open source is the future of AI. And the great China versus America AI race is in full swing.
All right, so he talks about open source versus closed source. I'll get into that in another episode to really kind of like define that all out for you guys. But anyway, this AI stuff, this is absolutely going to be the number one thing that is going to affect everything. I mean, we've talked about this for months now. And again, if you have not already, I highly recommend starting out with, don't worry about messing with DeepSeek yet. Let's let that settle a little bit. But again, if you've not really taken a crack at ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, Anthropic, Claude from Anthropic, and then the other one is Perplexity, those four are the four apps that I truly recommend you download onto your phone. They're safe. They're not, there's no issues on those four. Hold off on DeepSeek, but download ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, Claude from Anthropic, and then Perplexity, and just start to play around with those guys. All right. So fundamentally, I will tell you something I'm seeing is I think that this China versus United States thing across all platforms or issues is really going to kind of be at the forefront of things. Now, whether that's TikTok banning, unbanning, divesting, not divesting, whatever happens there. And like I said, I think Meta and Oracle or a combination thereof will end up somehow gaining ownership into that. Now we've got this DeepSeek AI coming to challenge ChatGPT, challenge this whole Stargate, major announcement from Trump last week and Oracle and Larry Ellison and all that. But I wanted to play for you guys, man. Somebody put together the top 5 kind of clips from lawmakers in regards to their discussions over the past several months with the CEO of ChatGPT. I forget the guy's, I'm blanking on his name right now. But anyway, give a listen to these. I'll probably interrupt each one through, but this is actual questions that are getting asked by our lawmakers of the ChatGPT, the TikTok CEO. This is, I might have messed up earlier too, but so the TikTok CEO. This is crazy. I just want to play this for you because one of the things that I really am trying to do with everybody, and especially through this podcast, is to get everybody to realize these lawmakers or anybody, they're no smarter than any of us. And quite frankly, they're probably bigger retards than us. We're allowed to use the word retard again. That I will thank President Trump on that one because I really do enjoy using that word. Okay, all right, let's start. These are hilarious.
Chow, if I plug in my earphones into my phone while they're in my ear, can TikTok know what's going on in my brain, please?
You seriously think this is AI, but it's not. It's legitimately what he said. He said, if I have TikTok and I plug in my earphones, and I play TikTok through my earphones or my earbuds or whatever, will TikTok know what's going on in my brain? All right, next up, Tom Cotton. This one's crazy.
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm Singaporean.
So that was Tom Cotton, who probably doesn't know Singapore as a country. And then this is another Republican lawmaker who definitely does not know Singapore as a country.
Look over here, please. I've never heard of a country called Singapore. Is it in Western Europe or mainland Europe? Because I certainly have never heard of Singapore.
That one was just insane. Okay, now listen to this one.
Can you assure me, or can you at least tell me, if you turn on airplane mode on a plane, can TikTok talk to the plane, please?
That guy literally asked, if you turn on airplane mode on your phone and you're on a plane, can TikTok talk to the airplane? Oh my God. All right, anyway, there are a couple more, but I'm not going to play them for you. So, point is, I don't even know what the point is. All right, 33 minutes. I'll wrap it up here. I'm going to leave you with, by far, I think, the best of President Trump's executive orders so far. And man, there's been a lot of them, and there's been a lot of good ones, and there's been a lot of interesting ones. But anyway, I hope this one absolutely comes to fruition. Call a spade, and we'll talk to you soon.
And lastly, sir, we have an executive order demanding that grown men stop wearing skinny jeans.
That's a big one, huh?
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.